Hello all, welcome to the video series SQL. In this video, we will talk about creating a database structure. So we will be using a DDL command called create. And then we will talk about the database basic properties when we are trying to create a database. So let's get started for creating the database. So I tried to connect to SQL Server with the user Kumar, and then in the databases, under databases, I have system databases, adventure works, and then Java training. Okay, so let's go ahead and create one database called customers. Okay, so the basic syntax for creating customers database is okay. So basically that's the pretty very simple command to create a database without giving any more details for the database. Okay, so let's write that command to create a database called customers. So create database, and then what is the database name? Okay, so that's your simple command to create a database with all default options. Okay, so I select that particular query and then I'll try to click execute. Okay, it says commands completed successfully, and then if I refresh my databases, I can see the customers database has been created. So if I right click that particular customers database and then click properties and then go to files, here you can see all different options for the database. Alright, so that's the database name which we try to give customers, and then that's the owner who tried to create the database, and then you can see the logical name, and then the file type, file group, initial size, auto growth, path, and file name. Okay, so when we try to create a database, SQL Server will automatically create one data file and one log file. Okay, so for a database to be created on Microsoft SQL Server database, there needs to be at least one data file and one log file. Why do we need these files for? So data file is used to store the data. Okay, and then log file is used to store the activity. Okay, so basically these two files are physical files. Okay, that means when we try to create the database using the command create database name, so two files were created in the background in the physical drive of your computer. Okay, so let's see, this is the path where the files must have been created. This is the default path for creating the files, but then if you change this location of the path, you can put your files in whatever location you want. Alright, so here you can see customers.mdf and customers_.ldf. MDF stands for data file and LDF stands for log file. Okay, and you can also call it as MDF as master data file and LDF as log data file. So data file will be created as .mdf extension. You can call it, you can actually give it any name. It's just how it is a way of differentiating between a data file and a log file. But then there is no mandatory, it's not mandatory that you have to give .mdf or .ldf. You can give any extension. Okay, but then this is how the naming standards are followed in every organization. So MDF stands for master data file and LDF stands for log data file. So that's the path of the files where the files are stored, and then these are the physical file names, customers.mdf and customers underscore dot underscore log dot ldf. These two are the files. Okay, and then if you come here, the first column represents the logical name of the files. Okay, so the logical names are nothing but internal database names, okay, or internal file names. Actually, customers is the data file name, and then customers underscore log is the log file name. Excuse me. So here the file type will tell you if it is a data file or if it is a log file. So the rows data means it's a data file, and if you see the log, that means that's a log file. Okay, and then the file group is nothing but it's a group of files. Okay, so when you are trying to create a database, I said you need to have at least one data file and at least one log file. Okay, but then there is no compulsion that you should have only one. You can have two data files, you can have three log files. Okay, so you can, when you have this number of files, you can put two files in one file group and you can put two files in another file group. So okay, so the default file group in SQL Server database is primary. Okay, so the default file group is primary. So file group is nothing but it's a group of data files. Okay, so I said it's a group of data files. Okay, because you cannot combine, you cannot have a file group for log files because all of them are together. Okay, so you cannot have two log files in one file group and two log files in another file group. Okay, but data files you can have it. Okay, so data file, what is a data file? Data file is used to store the data and a log file is used to store the activity. Okay, and then file group is group of data files, not the log files, and the default file group is primary file group. Okay, so you can create any number of file groups. All right, so let's talk about initial size. Initial size is the size given to the database when we are trying to create the database. Okay, so okay, I'm trying to create a database and then just I'll assign 8 MB or 100 MB of size. Okay, so let's say once I created my database, I will try to insert 100 MB of data. Okay, so if I know that, then I'll just try to initialize my database with 100 MB of data. Okay, that means I'll just give initial size as 100. Okay, similarly for log file also I'll try to create some initial size just to start the database. Okay, and then auto growth. Okay, now I have given initial size like 100 MB for my data file. Okay, so now I inserted 100 MB of data. Now I want to, now all the space is consumed. Now I want to insert another 100 MB of data. What happens? SQL Server needs to increase the file size. Okay, so initially we gave 100, and then once when we are trying to insert the new set of data with more 100 MB, then SQL Server, we have to tell SQL Server what is the auto growth. That means grow my file automatically by 100 MB or grow my file automatically by 10%. That is called auto growth. Okay, so that is, you are setting this property on the database that whenever space is needed, please auto grow my file by 100 MB, by 1 GB, by 10 GB. You can give that value. Okay, and then what is the maximum size? Okay, you cannot consume all the size on your hard disk, right? So that's the reason you can tell, okay, if my hard disk is 100 GB hard disk, then you can tell the database you can set the database property as maximum grow until 80 GB. Okay, don't consume all of my hard disk. Okay, that's a bad practice because of some other issues which we will talk about later. Okay, so that's the auto growth and maximum size properties, and that's it. So these are all the properties which we can give when we are trying to create a database. Okay, and then in our previous command we didn't give any of these properties, but SQL Server automatically took the default values. Okay, so now if I want to create a database with all the properties, then I will try to write a SQL command. Okay, so let's see, create database, and then let's say I'll try to create customers 1 database. Okay, or customers 101. Okay, so this is my database, this is my command, create database name, and then now we know we have to create at least one data file and one log file. So I want to create the file properties. Okay, so the first file name is customers 101 underscore 1 or underscore data underscore 1. That is my file name, data file name, logical file name. Okay, so you can also put a comment if you wish to, you can say logical file name. Okay, and then what is the physical file name? Okay, so we have this default location where we can create all the data files and log files. If you wish to choose to save your data files and log files in another location, you can always change this particular location. Okay, so now I gave that particular file physical file path. Okay, and then I will also give the physical file name. So okay, I'll just put the same name as my physical file name, that way it's all consistent. Okay, so and then I'll just say MDF, that's the extension. So basically that's your physical file name, and then I want to give the initial size. So size is 10 MB, that's my initial size of the file, and then I'll say file growth or auto growth 10 MB. Okay, file growth 10 MB, and then maximum size is equal to 100 MB. Okay, so that's my data file. Okay, so that's the command actually, create database and database name on, that's your data file, and then we'll give the log file, log on now I'll just say customers 101 underscore log underscore 1, that's your logical file name for the log file. Okay, and then physical file name is the path where the file will be stored, and then I want to give the physical file name as customers 101 underscore log dot LDF. Okay, so that's your physical file name for the log file, and then size equal to 10 MB initial size, and file growth is 10 MB. You can also give in percentage. If you just say 10, it will take it as percentage also, 10 MB, and maximum size is equal to 100 MB. So that's your syntax. So basically you are trying to create a database with the database name and on, that's your data file, and then if you say log on, then that's your log file. Okay, so if you try to select that particular query and then click execute, okay, that's the syntax error, so just put a comma there, and then if I try to run that particular query, you can see the commands completed successfully. Alright, so that means the database called customers 101 has been created. So if you click the object explorer and then refresh your databases, you can look at customers 101 database, and then if you right click on that and then look at the properties and then go to files, you can see the logical file names, and then the auto growth properties, and then the initial size, and then that's the physical path, and then the physical file names. Okay, so that's how you can that's how you can give the database or choose the database properties when you are trying to create a database. So here in this command, we try to create a database using one data file and one log file. So how to create a database using more than one data file and more than one log file. Okay, so let's say I'll try to create a customers 201 database. Okay, and then I'll change the data file names here just to be consistent all over. So that's my first data file, and that's my first log file. Alright, so basically the same query which I have written here, I just changed the name of the database. Okay, so now that's my first data file. So if I want to give a second data file, all you have to do is put a comma and then give your second file properties. Okay, so that's your second data file. Okay, and then I'll just put it as _2. That means that that's my second data file, and then the physical name is also changed, and then so that's your second data file. If you want to have third data file, add another comma and then just put it in the bottom. So that's your third data file. Okay, so you can have any number of data files. There will be some limitations from the database provider, but you can create more than one data file. So that's your third data file. You can change the properties as you wish. Okay, and then if you want to create a second log file, that's your second log file, and then just change the names, because two files cannot have the same name, right? So that's your second log file, and then you can have third log file as well. So basically that query becomes a command to create a database with 3 data files and with 2 log files. Okay, so let's select everything and then try to execute it, and then you can see command completed successfully. And then if you refresh your databases, and there you go, customers 201 database got created. And then if you right click on that, and then if you click properties, and then if you go to files, you can see there are 3 data files that's been created and 2 log files that has been created. All right, so it's just Microsoft SQL Server. It's just not that you have to do things only by writing SQL code. You can actually use the graphical user interface. Okay, so here in this is the graphical user interface where you can actually do it without writing any code. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and add another data file to this particular database. Okay, so let's click add, and then that's your new row that has been created. And then I'll just copy this particular file name, logical file name, and then I'll say 4, and then what is the type of the file you are adding, rows or the data file, and then what is the initial size, 8, or you can increase it to 10 MB. And then if you click this one, you can select the auto growth and maximum size properties, enable auto growth, and then file growth in percentage or in megabytes. Okay, so let's say 64 megabytes. Okay, or you can also say 10% of initial size. Okay, and then maximum file size is unlimited. If you put unlimited, all your drive space will be consumed, which is not a good practice. Okay, and then let's put limited to 100 MB. Okay, or you can give it is 1000 MB, that is 1 GB, right? And then click OK. All right, and then that's your physical path. You can always change it by clicking on that ellipsis button. I'll put it to default, and then this is your physical file name, LDF. All right, and that's it. You can click OK, and basically you have created another data file, added another data file to this particular customers database customers database by using a graphical user interface and also using a SQL command. All right, so that's your fourth data file that you just added. All right. So the possible interview questions for this video will be, sometimes when you're trying to attend an interview, they may ask you to write a code when you are in person, when you are doing the in-person interview. So you have to be prepared for writing code as well when you are trying to get the interview done, right? So they may ask you like syntax for creating a database like we did just now, and then syntax for creating database with 2 data files and 2 log files, something like that, right? Okay,